University of Alabama, online.
We offer one who has the will to win, who not only deserves success, but commands it.
So, Dr. Crosby, you work at the intersection of psychology and wealth management, and we're hearing a lot about AI transforming financial services. These are all financial planning majors. And so, what part of personal finance do you believe cannot be automated, cannot be taken over by AI, and why will human financial planners still be essential?
Yeah, so this is fantastic because it turns out that the place where you all add the most value is also the place that's hardest for the robot overlords to overtake us. So if we look at, there's a meta-analysis from 2016 that looks at all the ways that financial planners, financial advisors add dollars and cents, basis points value to their clients' lives. And I sort of bifurcated it into two tranches there. One we'll call sort of the old school or the technical piece, and then one we'll call the new school behavioral piece. If you look at the old school stuff, this is tax alpha, asset allocation, product selection, rebalancing, things like that, the blocking and tackling of financial advice. All of that stuff is additive, like all of it is important. And it adds anywhere from about 25, 30 to about 60 basis points of value per dimension to a client's life. Good stuff. The good news is it's additive. The bad news is machines are coming for that, right? Like that's all, computers do that better than we do. Anything that's rote or deeply analytical or numerical, computers just do that better than we do. That's the bad news. The good news is, though, on the other side of that ledger, behavioral advice, keeping clients from their worst impulses, keeping them from investing in their son-in-law's business, keeping them from selling out of the market in March of 2020 or March of 2009. This adds 240 basis points of value. Your relationship with that client. Client assessment, getting to know that client on a personal basis adds about 80 basis points worth of value, and tweaking and personalizing your recommendations for their unique situation. So those things aren't easily automatable. And even when companies try to automate that, we get into what's called the uncanny valley, which is sort of the creepy factor of not wanting computers to do human things. And so that's where we have an edge, and an enduring edge. If anything is relational or creative or generative, that's where our human edge is well into the future. So I'm actually thrilled about the rise of the Terminators now. I'm really thrilled about the rise of AI here, because what it's going to allow advisors to do is to offload the least value added, most boring, most rote parts of their jobs, and to spend more time being human and adding the most value. People don't, I liken it a bit into the chess world, right? If we look at the chess world, forever human chess grandmasters could beat computers. And then we had Deep Blue come and beat a chess master, and everyone thought, oh, wow, well, there we go. Like that, there goes, sort of human supremacy there. But what is true to this day is that a human with a computer can beat, a computer can beat a human, but a human with a computer can beat a computer. So I advocate for what we'll call sort of the centaur approach, or this blended approach, right? A human advisor that's using AI in additive ways to be additive to her work, that's going to be the advisor of the future. They're going to use that to offload the least valuable, most rote, most repetitive parts of their work, and they're going to free themselves up to connect and be more human.
So technology's here. And how does knowing that financial planning is about people, it's not just about spreadsheets, how does that influence you choosing this and sticking with this career path?
Yeah, so I think what Dr. Crosby was saying is super interesting. Leveraging, there's, I'm sure you're familiar with Jevons paradox. Just with increased efficiency comes increased demand. So leveraging the innovation that and the tools that come with AI, I don't think that that's necessarily that's not a negative in my perspective. So if you're effective at leveraging that, then you increase demand in theory. And then also referencing the uncanny valley, I thought that was an interesting point. But I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that gives them almost, again, increasing demand for the behavioral, personal side of what you're doing with financial planning. And again, not to ramble, but a lot of those, I guess, nuances and technicalities, alpha generation. That yes, like that can be. Machine that machines can do that more efficiently, but I think there's always going to be a demand for I don't want to undersell it, but a smiling face and someone who's there to actually listen to what you're going through and apply it.
For me, that's actually what drew me to this field, because I'm a people's person. So yeah, like financial planning, some of it is numbers and spreadsheets, but I feel being there for your client and them being confident in every decision they make and knowing you're going to be there every step of the way, I feel like that's better than, talking to, AI, and yeah, they're going to give you numbers and what you should do, but they're not going to be with you every step of the way for you.
And just like they both just said, and Dr. Crosby said, it's all about the relationships, forming that trust and respect, kind of like we were talking about earlier with financial planning and psychology. The relationships and having empathy for others and showing that you understand them and that you're there for them and through their ups and downs in life.
That's right. No robot can hold your hand at a funeral. And
Right.
So also I want to ask you a follow-up on that. What human skills do you think will matter the most for financial planners in the future?
I think being inquisitive and curious, I think those are kind of soft skills or soft traits that are relevant. I think that's kind of how you bridge commonality, finding mutual interest points, and just understanding the people that you're working with. And I think that kind of fosters trust and like authenticity in those relationships.
What about you, Mom?
I would say listening, because yes, clients, they come to you for guidance and want your help, but they also want someone to listen to them so they can feel seen and understood. So I feel like the duo of, guiding them and also listening to them will help.
I would say emotional intelligence, recognizing other people's emotions. I feel like through an AI chat, AI might not be able to necessarily recognize some of these emotions. They can tell them that they're upset or what's going on, but you can't get like the nonverbal cues or how people interact.
A quick word on that. One of the most interesting pieces of research. So I met you yesterday, but most of us met this morning, right? And when groups of people meet for the first time and then they part ways, when psychologists ask them, "Hey, did you enjoy meeting Daniel? This morning?" The answer to that question depends most dramatically on one variable. And it's, we're at a football school here, so we'll talk about time of possession. So question and response, time of possession. So if we meet and I dominate the conversation and I'm, me, and not asking for anything in return, you're not gonna like me very much. When we look at the research on financial advisors and a discovery meeting, a first meeting, it tends to be about 80-20 time of possession for the financial advisor. Questioning and listening is so much better because it should be reversed. If you want your client to fall in love with you in that first meeting, it should be 20-80, 25-75. You listening, asking questions, having that pregnant pause, listening for what comes back, and not you, talking about the storied history of your firm or whatever it may be. So I think listening is an absolutely huge one. And in terms of what you were talking about, I spoke yesterday about an Accenture study that came out a few years ago that asked people what they were looking for in a relationship with their financial advisor. the number one response, 91%, number one response was someone who gets me, someone who understands me. And so that empathy, the emotional intelligence, the question asking, listening, all of that is so critical to making sure they feel understood. Because when someone feels seen, they feel understood, everything else falls in place.
This has been a production of the University of Alabama Online.